Hey there, cats and kittens. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The MonkeyBoy Presents the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, and today I'm happy to bring you issue number 94 in the series, Hourman. And this is another really great character, a Golden Age character. He's classic, been around forever, and this is technically the second incarnation of Hourman, the son of the original, whose name was Rex Tyler. This is Rick Tyler, his son. If you know the character, chances are you've seen him on a sort of guest appearance on an episode of Justice League Unlimited, where he was a background character. He really didn't play any major role, but he was there. He also appeared on an episode of The Batman, the Brave, and the Bold that aired on Cartoon Network. But really, what DC character didn't appear on that show? If you're familiar with it, it's a really cool series. I highly recommend it. For those of you unaware of Hourman, well, that's why we have the magazine, which we'll take a look at first, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about this Golden Age hero. And then we'll look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. A nice figure, not without its problems, not necessarily my favorite, but he is really cool overall. I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy issue number 94 in the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, Hourman. First up, the character section. And this magazine is sort of unique because it takes a look at all three of the men that have called themselves Hourman in the DCU, beginning with the original Golden Age Hourman, Rex Tick-Tock Tyler. Rex was a brilliant engineer and an amazing chemist who worked for Bannerman Chemical Works in 1939, and he discovered a potent new compound which he dubbed Miraclo. When Rex drank the Miraclo solution, which he eventually turned into pill form, it supercharged his body with incredible strength, speed, and vitality for 60 minutes at a time. After discovering Miraclo's harmful side effects, Rex went into semi-retirement as Hourman and instead focused on running his newfound corporation, Tyler Co. Rick Tyler, Rex's son, who, like most children of heroes, wanted to be nothing like his father and turned his back on the idea of being a hero altogether. That is until one day when father and son were visiting their friend Dr. Charles McNider, aka Dr. Midnight, at his hospital, when suddenly an earthquake caused the building to come crumbling down around them. After realizing one of his closest friends was trapped inside the hospital, Rick, against his father's wishes, took one of the Miraclo capsules, rushed into the building, and saved her from a fiery death. As Golden Age heroes began to retire, the next generation carried on their legacy and names. Rick became the new Hourman, carrying on his father's title, and Beth Chapel became the new Dr. Midnight. Unlike his father, Rick began to abuse the Miraclo drug until it finally ravaged his body to the point where he was dying. As Rick lay dying in a hospital bed, the villains, Parallax and Extent, try to rewrite time, forcing the original Hourman and Dr. Midnight to come out of retirement. Unfortunately, the time-manipulating villain Extent increased their ages rapidly, killing both of them. As As Rick's health continued to deteriorate, a third Hourman appeared on the scene, this time a synthetic intelligent machine colony from the distant future who was created from Rex Tyler's DNA. He healed his brother Rick from his condition and also managed to save their father Rex by trapping him within a temporal loop known as the Time Point. He also mentions a time when Rick was forced to use his powers to enter the Time Point and trade places with his father Rex after Rick had suffered a mortal wound from the assassin known as Nemesis. With help from his friends in the JSA, Rex managed to contact the time-traveling Hourman, who saved Rick from his mortal wounds, brought him out of the Time Point, and also sacrificed himself to spare Rex, giving both father and son a second chance at life together. Next, we look at a couple of Hourman's classic stories. First up, JSA Classified, The Venom Connection. This story begins with the villainous Bane breaking into Rex Tyler, the original Hourman's home. When Rex and his son Rick, the second Hourman, confront Bane, they learn that he's not there looking for a fight, he's looking for their help. He reveals that he's on a quest to destroy the drug known as Venom that he was once addicted to, and that a cartel in their town has somehow managed to synthesize a version of the Venom using the Miraclo compound. It's a very well illustrated story with spectacular fights, a lot of twists, and some really cool surprises to the story, and is worth checking out. We also have the JSA All-Stars, An Hour at a Time. This is a very powerful story that opens with Rick Tyler having his flash-forward ability give him a premonition of a man who is about to commit suicide by leaping off of a skyscraper. Rick becomes Hourman and uses his hour of power to race through the city trying to find the suicidal young man that he is determined to save. And as Rick searches, he wonders how a man with superpowers can hope to save a person determined to end their own life. It's action-packed and very tense, and is a really good one-shot to check out. Rick Tyler's Friends and Foes section features his father, the first Hourman Rex, his brother, the third Hourman Matthew, and his wife, Jessie Chambers, also known as Liberty Bell. Finally, the iconography section looks at some other heroes and villains like Hourman who use pharmaceuticals to give themselves powers. It starts by looking at all of the different villains to call themselves Clayface, including the original Clayface Basil Carlo, the second Clayface Matt Hagen, the third Professor Preston Payne, and also Lady Clay, who formed up a group called the Mud Pack. Dr. Kirk Langstrom, a naturalist who specialized in bats and experimented on himself, inadvertently becoming Man-Bat. Investigative reporter Jack Wilder was injected with a chemical cocktail that altered his features and gave him superpowers as the Creeper. Finally, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen was once exposed to a pharmaceutical concoction containing gingold that had a unique response to his genetic structure and granted him a number of different powers. And here we have Hourman. Well, the second version of Hourman anyway, the Rick Tyler version, and he is pretty nice. He is borderlining on being a really great figure, and that's just because the paint is sloppy in some areas. But as I said, overall, he ain't too shabby. I do like the paint job, I like the costume, it's pretty accurate. I sort of wish it was the original Hourman, the Golden Age Rex. or even the third Hourman, the android time traveler from the future. Now, it's just sort of confusing having the second Hourman, the third Starman, the original Green Lantern, the original Flash, the newest Mr. Terrific. They're sort of jumping all over the place with the JSA characters, but that said, he is a pretty nice figure overall. I do like the fact that he has the hourglass around the neck. The musculature is pretty decent for the most part. Well sculpted, well shaded. I love the black and yellow color all the way down to the boots. He is pretty nice. Not necessarily for everyone, and he is far from perfect. I'll talk a little bit more about what I do and don't like in the next section in a moment. Hourman stands atop the classic DC logo, and the underside of the base features his name and serial number. And to give you a sense of size and scale, here he is next to the special edition Bane, and a big group shot with every other member of the Justice Society of America that have been released as part of the collection so far. Hourman is a good figure. He's not great, he's not for everyone. It is really cool to have another member of the Justice Society of America. I enjoy swelling those ranks, but the good is pretty evenly matched with the bad on this figure. But we will begin, of course, with the good. The pose is pretty neat. I do like the fact that it's sort of dynamic. He's throwing a punch. He looks as though he's in action. The sculpt, for the most part, is very nice. The colors are good, and the paint is, it's just okay, honestly. Starting with the boots, you can see the details are really good. The black is nice and flat. It is not glossy at all, which is great. It also has a good texture to it. It looks like a fabric. He has the red rings around the boots. The boots are also nicely detailed. His legs also have great sculpt. You can see quadriceps. You can see his knees are sculpted nicely. The yellow is also a great, nice, flat yellow. It's not too glossy at all. Again, it has a great texture to it. Looks like it's some sort of fabric. Love that thick red belt around the middle of his waist. His abs, his chest, all, again, great sculpture there. The musculature is superb. I like the hourglass around the neck, and the paint is cool. I do like the fact that they detailed the sand in the hourglass and the red of the hourglass itself, plus the fact that it's hanging around his neck. The fists are pretty cool. Every finger is detailed, even though they are closed fists, and he does have the red rings around both gloves, which also have detailing. The cape is fantastic. Great ruffles, ridges, shadowing and shading. The two-tone of the yellow and black is nice, and the black on the cape does have a bit of a glossiness to it as opposed to the rest of the costume. Finally, the head sculpt is okay. I like how the hood covers almost all of his face. I do like how you can see his jaw and the peak of his nose, but the details there aren't that fantastic, although the flesh tone of the paint is nice. And the hood is really nicely detailed. Again, it's a slightly glossy black like the rest of his cape, and there is great bunching and sculpture and folding on the back of it where the hood meets the cape. And I do like the pupilless eyes, but the head sculpt is just okay. On to the bad. Very sloppy paint. That's my first major complaint. There might be no decals on him. He's totally hand-painted, but the paint is sloppy. The hourglass around the neck and the red rings around both forearms. They should be a V, not a circle just around the forearms. You can even see it's sculpted into the forearms, that V shape. Also, I wish that this had been the original Hourman, the Golden Age Hourman Rex. On to the ugly. Nothing breakable or bendable about this guy. A solid lead figure. You just want to watch the paint and make sure it's not too sloppily done. Overall, Hourman is a good figure. He's not great. He's not for everyone, but he is good. The sculpt is really nice. The pose is pretty cool. At least he's throwing a punch. It's the paint that bugs me the most. It's very sloppy. Maybe you'll find one that has perfect paint and he'll be a great figure to add to your collection. But otherwise, unless you're a completionist or a huge fan of the JSA, I don't know why you would necessarily want to add him to your personal collection. I personally would have preferred the original Hourman over the one we were given here, and that's something I wish Eaglemoss had decided upon with this series, to just either do the original Golden Age characters in the JSA or the most modern interpretations, and to throw Rick at us, who's sort of in between, just baffles me. But he is nice for what he is, as I said, not for everyone, but a good figure, and always nice to have another member of the JSA. And I hope you have enjoyed this review of Hourman, the 94th issue in this series. We're getting close to the end, ladies and gentlemen. I know, it's a sad thing, but we still have a few more to go, thankfully. Please stay tuned for a quick teaser trailer of the next special edition figure in the Eaglemoss collection. That's right, it's time for a special edition in the regular collection. It's sort of overdue, I suppose. It's a figure that is sort of controversial. A lot of fans don't necessarily consider it a special edition, but it is pretty cool, a favorite character of mine, honestly, and I hope you stay tuned for that quick teaser. As always, I'm your host, the MonkeyBoy, aka Jay to his friends. Thanks for watching.